Hello everybody. I am the DM Vortielite, and also I bear bad news here. At the very end of this session's recording, I found out that the audio on my end glitched out. It somehow made it so that my microphone was no longer my default recording device, and well, it basically eliminated my audio track from the recording itself. So, well, there goes around almost 4 hours of recording time from my end. Everyone else's audio is fine, however, but well, obviously I can't just really upload the video without my portion, and it's not like I'm going to be able to remember everything I said off the top of my head and recreate it in the recording. So for now, I'll just do this little recap to keep everybody up to speed on what happened during today's session. So basically, the party woke up after their little rest at the tavern. During their stay at the tavern after the first day of the Great Games, they had a couple of interactions between them. Bouxfhades met a trio of gamblers that seemed to frequent the Dragon's Lair tavern, who he engaged with, did a couple of friendly bets, mostly just trading around silver, and essentially established a long friendship with them. However, he is wary because apparently his curse of damaging the environment around him seems to affect the drinks that the trio seems to be consuming, and he's a little bit more apprehensive to interact with them from now on. We also got a new token art for Linus, the owner of the tavern. He is, much like I described, a slightly overweight man with a perpetually jovial attitude. After taking a rest in the tavern, the party, well, woke up feeling quite refreshed, except for Derek, who was rudely awakened by Pythor, essentially carrying him out of his room and into the courtyard next to the tavern, in order to begin their first day of training. A training that would have caused some form of exhaustion on Derek, but he managed to come out alright, if a little bit sore. After that, the second day of the Great Games properly begins. The first trial is one of, of endurance, a race around the whole Colosseum. It was a race that involved the 6 different stages during which the party would need to, do a series of checks of athletics or acrobatics, as well as a constitution saving throw at the end of each of the stages to see if they are, still in the game, so to speak. For the first stages of the race, Exandri was actually ahead of everybody, more or less leaving everybody in the dust while everybody was struggling and playing catch-up. After a while, however, she started to lag behind, rolling a little bit badly on the checks and even worse on the constitution saving throws to avoid exhaustion. This wasn't a real exhaustion, but rather more like a temporary one that could be healed on the next short rest. After this happened, Exandrich sadly lost the lead, and the only ones left were Leland, one of the athletes, and Bouxfhades. Through some luck of the draw, Leland was actually unable to properly maintain himself in the race, leading Bouxfhades in first place, Leland in second place, and lastly Drakgar in last place. Well, technically Drakgar and Exandri in last place, but Exandri was just a little bit up ahead from Drakgar, so she actually got the bronze in that one. After a bit of rest, which gave some time for interaction for the magical assistance that the party got, Exandri spoke with Lorius, Drakgar spoke with Sholos, one of the bards that they freed from petrification a while back, and Bouxfhades spoke to Falana, one of the participants in the race. A bard who he was really confused as to why she would participate in such an event. She basically said that she agreed to assist him with her bardic assistance as long as he would promise to do a favor for her that she was not going to specify at the moment. After the race and the rest, the party moved on to the next event of the Great Games, which was javelin throwing. This essentially consisted on whoever was going to be throwing 3 javelins to make a series of athletics or acrobatics check to see how far away, further than 120 feet, the javelins would go. It was a very close match, with the Drakgar actually winning by a couple of tenths of feet above most others. Well, one of his throws was actually particularly long, reaching upwards to 219 feet. Everybody else did their attempts, including Hatria, the Amazon, Leland, the crowd favorite, as well as Pancras, the nymph, and last but not least, the aforementioned Falana, the bard that Bouxfhades had talked to before. After this match, which ended with Drakgar with a gold medal, Leland with a silver medal, and Pancras, the nymph, with a bronze medal, the second day of the Great Games comes to an end. The party approached Spira, one of the participants of the race, who was, well, caught the attention of the party. They essentially noticed that she seems to be clutching at her side during certain segments, especially when she got exhausted during the last few legs of the race. Through a little bit of interaction, the party found out that she actually sustained an injury years ago while she was training to become a guard like her father before her. Sadly, this injury meant that she was unable to join the Mytrosian Guard. But years after that, now that she's quote-unquote recovered, she's trying her hand at the Great Games in order to represent her small village, a nameless settlement towards the west of Mytros that the party has yet to really find. The party, after this, decided to call it a day, having formed new friendships with both Falana and Spira. They decided to return back to the tavern. By the time they got there, at the inn, the word has spread around of their, well, presence in this place, leaving it quite crowded and not as peaceful as previous days have proven to be. In fact, it got so crowded that Bouxfhades was actually unable to make contact with the trio of individuals that he made friends with over their shared like for gambling. The party did agree that since tomorrow is the last day of the Great Games, that they shall give it their all to bring back glory, hoping that at least one of them should be able to, well, get the most medals out of everybody. For their own reasons, Derek wants to take this as a chance to beat in a boxing match the soldier from the Order of Sidon, Jorgis, the Hobgoblin. Drakgar merely wants to, well, test himself, to push himself to the limits. Bouxfhades wishes to participate because he actually really likes being a center of attention in a good way, rather than what his past has proven before. Exandria is more or less doing this for fun, but also because she likes seeing people cheer her on and cheer on her team, namely, well, Pythor, her father, and Kyra, her aunt. Surprisingly enough, during her interaction with the people who were cheering on the party from their quote-unquote corner of the Colosseum, Moxia, the Lady of Coins, was actually present during that, mainly because she wanted to see how things could go very, very wrong, which they might in the following day, considering that we will have the boxing matches as well as the relay race. That, according to Kyra, if her information is correct, will actually be quite a bit of a challenge for the party. However, we'll have to see that. A couple of things to note. After the party went on to rest, preparing for the final day of the Great Games, in the morning, Derek awoke once again to be trained by Pythor. He had less success this time around. However, this would be made up in a sense, as he would soon run into Versi, the Oracle, once again. Derek and Versi share a moment where essentially she is looking forward to the moment where everyone sets sail into the Cerulean Gulf and beyond, so that they may be a little bit closer together than they've been this last couple of weeks. Derek asks Versi for some assistance in the upcoming finale of the Great Games. Versi warned Derek that her magic works in a very specific way and that it may not actually end up going too well for Derek should it be noted by the arbiter of the Academy of Mytros. Derek didn't much care about this warning and just insisted that Versi should assist him. Versi proceeded to cast a spell known as Foresight for Derek, which is a very, very powerful spell that will essentially well, counteract the level of exhaustion that Derek gained in the training with Pythor. However, it is a very powerful spell, and perhaps not one that is allowed by the rules of the Great Games of Mythos. With this warning in mind, the party is going into the Great Games. Derek, of course, having not actually just yet told anybody about this, but we will see the result of that next session. Once again, I am really sorry about this whole technical shenanigans that happened with the audio. Again, I'm not sure how it happened, how it just stopped recording from my microphone. I'll make sure that this doesn't happen again. I know I say that every time technical difficulty happens, but trust me, it's kind of hard for me to balance out the whole DMing while also making sure the recording is going on. So I hope that people cut me some slack in that regard. Whatever the case may be, hopefully next week we won't have this sort of technical issues. It'll be the last day of the Great Games before the party moves on to, well, the actual Odyssey part of the Odyssey of the Dragonlords, as they will set off on their journey across the Cerulean Gulf and beyond on the Ultras, the legendary ship of Esor Kalander. And yeah, that will be about it. I hope that you guys, those of you who continue watching this on YouTube, continue watching the other episodes despite all the technical issues that we have, and you know, I hope that if next session ends up being mostly a roleplay session, well, at least people enjoy it and find it a little bit interesting. I try my best to make these roleplay heavy sessions as engaging as I can, both for the players and the audience. So I hope people enjoy them, and I hope people can, you know, get something out of them, some enjoyment out of them. But yeah, that'll be it, and I will see everybody in the next session.